Local programming on KRWG made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Fronteras, a Changing America. I'm Carlos Correa. On the program, Charlie Minn, a filmmaker dedicated to giving victims a voice. His documentaries are opening the doors, stirring up conversation, and putting the national spotlight on the people and places that seem to be ignored. We'll talk to him about his work and his latest project in Ciudad Juarez. But first, a college student is following his dreams while still in school. As you'll see, he's making his own impact on the community and finding success with the one thing he's so very passionate about pursuing. For as long as he can remember, Eugene Pedraza always had an ear for music.
I think music is the biggest influence in my life.
And it's something Eugene can't live without.
Somebody asked me if I would rather go blind or go deaf, which would I choose, and I'd definitely rather go blind than go deaf ever because I just love music so much. So.
He played trumpet at the age of 9 and later became heavily involved in playing mariachi music. His interest in the genre was so strong, Eugene even signed with a professional group out of El Paso. But it wasn't until recently that his calling came to him by mere accident.
It was September 15th of 2010. I actually just went to El Paso to buy a few things for school, and my friend Alonso was looking for a car audio system, and he decided that we would go shop in El Paso, and so I decided I'd tag along with him because I needed to buy a few things myself.
What he stumbled upon was some DJ equipment that would forever change his life.
I just fell in love with it then, and I splurged a little bit and decided I would just buy it, not knowing anything about it whatsoever, you know. And so I decided to buy it, and it was quite the investment.
And through hard work and lots of practice, Eugene Pedraza turned into DJ GenEous.
My dad, he's always called me Genius since I was a little kid, just because my name's Gene or Eugene, and he always just says Gene short for genius. So I just sort of came up with the way I spell it. It's just different. I didn't want it to just be the regular GenEous, you know. I want to do something with my actual name. So I spelt it a little differently, and I don't know, it just stuck.
And DJ GenEous is becoming a household name around town.
It's really nice to, know that people have gained respect for me.
And it shows. DJ GenEous helps bring in the crowd at local sports bars, mixing songs for hundreds of people. Often he'll play his own self-produced tracks, something he wouldn't mind doing as a career.
I'd say DJing in a nutshell comes down to you have one track on 1 to 4 tracks actually. It just depends what kind of controller you have, but you're trying your best to blend one track with another track without the audience noticing that you mix them in.
DJ GenEous admits mixing is a skill that takes time to develop, which is why he spends most of his days listening to his favorite tunes, getting ideas for when he takes to the stage.
I try and read the crowd as best possible. You know, if they're not feeling a track, or if I can tell that they're not feeling something, then I'm gonna try and switch the genre or switch to, something different.
GenEous is on the road to even more success. He gets invited to spin at various locations and even private events. But wherever his path takes him, GenEous plans to give back.
If you make it, you have to go back to the roots and understand that, you have it good, but there's probably about 45 other people who don't have it good at all. Anyone can make it, just, it just takes a lot of work, and I feel that with the right work ethic that they have, they've made it, so I hope to, strive to have similar excellence.
And joining me on the set right now is filmmaker Charlie Minn. Charlie, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Charlie, if people are not aware of who you are, they're pretty aware of what you've done and what you have accomplished. And Charlie, we both met when I first moved here in Las Cruces, and we were visiting and talking about the devastation that happened in a Las Cruces bowling alley about 22 years ago when 4 people were murdered. First, tell me the moment you said this was a story to tell.
I first saw it when I was watching Unsolved Mysteries. It was the summer of 1990. I was living in Boston, and I'll never forget that night. It just literally shattered my night. I remember it was the last 10 minutes of the hour. I actually remember what part of the hour it was in because of the impact it had on me. And just watching that, I was so saddened and even angered at the unfairness behind it. So that's how I first found out about it.
Were you living in the area at the time?
No, I was living in Boston, and when I saw that, I just froze. And I wasn't a filmmaker at the time, but it was always in the back of my mind. I would call the Las Cruces Police Department periodically, and to this day, I'm so troubled that there hasn't been a single arrest made.
I know it must be difficult for walking into a situation when a family has just gone through a big tragedy. How did you overcome that?
Well, you have to be mentally strong. I mean, we're talking about probably the worst crime in New Mexico history. And all my films are extremely victim-driven. All my films stick up for victims. I try to give a voice to the voiceless. And my heart pours out to the Turan family, the Woods family. I mean, this is a crime that no one saw coming, especially in Las Cruces in 1990, a nice college town, 30,000, 40,000 people. To this day, I still can't believe it happened. For one day, Las Cruces became Juarez.
Many times we get really involved in the stories we're telling with the people. How did you handle the sensitive topic?
You just have to be really mature about it and look at the material and devise a plan and know what questions to ask and do your research and homework. And I worked really well with Mark Myers from the Las Cruces Police Department, and I have to give full credit to him. I don't think the movie could have been made without his assistance. And then I'm always concerned whether the victims are going to be on board or not. All of them were, and that made the film a lot easier to make.
Many times, well, your film, A Nightmare in Las Cruces, was well received by many people. And we know that with many documentaries, there's your focus is to get more information out there and educate the community. What else did you want from this film?
Well, just that. I mean, you know, anything after 20 years is going to fade. And the 20-year anniversary was coming up, and I said, what an opportune time to make the movie. 20 years, nice round number, get it out there. And while I was making the film, I was rather surprised that a lot of people didn't even know about the crime because it had been so long ago. So it was really made. The purpose was to bring attention, revive, remind people, inform for people who never even knew about it, to get it out there as far and wide as possible. And hopefully that will lead to someone stepping forward, having the guts to come forward with information, and maybe somebody admitting to something. We tried everything, Mark Myers and I. The film was sold to Lionsgate, so that even increases the exposure. And to this day, there still hasn't been a single arrest. And I think about the crime a lot. It will forever trouble me. And it's especially tough around mid-February when the victims have to go through this again. You know, most people look forward to Valentine's Day around mid-February, and unfortunately for these victims, it reminds them of that haunting day.
Do you think that one day they will be, this case will be solved, since you've been working a lot with the police department when you made this film? Were they getting a lot of leads at the time? And does this help, talking about it?
At the time they did when the film came out. And then it just kind of goes in hills and valleys, it dips. And then when Lionsgate brought the film and America's Most Wanted came in, then there was a resurgence of tips coming in. But to answer your question, Carlos, I don't know. I don't know if this thing will ever get solved. The killers could be dead. I mean, this happened 22 years ago. One was described to be around 30, the other one around 50. So that would place the two gentlemen at 50 and 70 now. I have a feeling that one of them is alive, and I couldn't even tell you why. My gut feeling is that this came out of Juarez. Everything points to a Juarez situation, killing children, shooting eyewitnesses, trying to murder everybody. that's a Juarez hit right there, in my view.
Now, you've worked with family members of the victims and the survivors. Many people are probably watching, wondering, are they okay? Have you spoken to them?
Yeah, I do keep in touch with them. I'd like to talk to them more, but I'm not always in town. But I do think about them quite a bit and what they're going through, especially early to mid-February, because that's when it really hits home even harder. But like I said, my heart pours out to the Woods family, the Teran family. This was brutal. This is the worst crime easily in Las Cruces history, if not for the state of New Mexico.
When you released this film, did it ever cross your mind that someone out there might not receive it well?
I think anytime you make a film, you're going to always have your critics. A movie like Raging Bull has been criticized. Oscar winners have been criticized. So anytime you make a film, get ready to hear it from both sides.
Now, another film that you made is Cruces Divided, and that story is about the football rivalry between Mayfield High School and Las Cruces High School that dates back to the 1960s. And what was your inspiration behind that film?
I love sports, and I used to cover prep football in New Mexico. I used to be a sportscaster in Albuquerque. And boy, I mean, when I was in Las Cruces, making a nightmare in Las Cruces, people would tell me, man, you have to go to this one football game. About a quarter to a third of the city comes out the first Friday in November. And being a huge sports fan and enjoying high school sports where it's all about pride, it's all about the name on your jersey, I said this would be a pretty neat situation. And then when you study it and it goes back to the 60s and you learn about Jim Miller and Jim Bradley and Michael Bradley and just the success both programs have had, I felt it would be good to reward both schools by making a film for them.
Now, in my career, I've worked in several different communities where Friday night football is people are very passionate about it. Why do you think that is, and specifically here in Las Cruces?
I think the main reason why it's here is because you only have 3 high schools. Now you have 4 with Centennial coming in. And it's going to be interesting how that's going to change the landscape of the high school football here in Las Cruces. But for here, one of the main reasons why the rivalry is so big is because for a while it was just Las Cruces and Mayfield. So you were either for one side or the other. And then Oñate came in and changed things a little bit. So I think that's the reason why, is because, I mean, for instance, in El Paso you have about 30 high schools. So they don't have that one really fierce rivalry that the city of Las Cruces has. They have Coronado and Franklin there, but that doesn't compare to the Las Cruces-Mayfield football rivalry. It's a very special rivalry.
About 33,000 people come to see the rivalry game. How much work went into putting this film together? I'm sure you went through a lot of footage.
Yeah, you know, people might think, oh, this is a football film, it must have been fun, it must have been easy. This might have been the most difficult film to make out of all my films because I'm dealing with so many numbers, so many names. It's so easy to make a mistake. And high school football is not the easiest thing to Google. So I was literally asking help from people who went to Mayfield High a while back, Las Cruces High a while back, and it's hard to get records. So if it wasn't for Steve Ramirez at the Las Cruces Sun-News, it would have been a lot more difficult to come up with accurate material and data. So believe it or not, this was a very difficult film to put together.
How many games did you actually use in the film? I know that not all of them were in it, right?
No, I mean, it was impossible to get everyone because the first game was in 1967, so you're talking, what, 45 years? We have about half the games in the movie.
Now, I don't expect you to answer this question, but in the process of making your film, did anyone ever ask you which side were you rooting for, and how did you handle that question?
Yeah, I mean, if I would wear red, people would say, hey, you're for Las Cruces. If I would wear green, they'd say, hey, you're for Mayfield. But I honestly root for both teams, may the better team win. Some people may not believe that, but I am really down the middle. Jim Miller's a great guy, Michael Bradley's a great guy. Both schools have a tremendous fan support, a fan base. So I was totally on the 50-yard line on that.
Now, your film, 8 Murders a Day, talks about the ongoing violence happening about 45 miles south of here, across the border in Ciudad Juarez. And Charlie, we know that you're fascinated by true crime. What made this film important to you?
When I was making Nightmare in Las Cruces, that's when the violence in Juarez just exploded. And I've always had a thing for Mexico, the people, the culture. And to this day, I can't quite understand what exactly is going on in Juarez. Over 95% of these murders are not even investigated. So that really begs three questions, and that is exactly who's being killed here, by who, and why. Those are three questions that at some point needs to be addressed. I've often called this the ghost war. And with all due respect to Syria, North Korea, Somalia, this is the greatest human rights disaster in the world today, happening just 40 miles from here, where you have such a staggering number of murders in one city. In 2010, Carlos, there were more murders in Ciudad Juarez than the 9/11 attacks. I would venture to say 95% of the people in our country don't know that shocking statistic. Since January of 2008, there's been over 10,000 murders in Ciudad Juarez. That's 40% greater than both of our wars in the Middle East put together. I bet you 95% of the people in our country don't know that either. We've all heard of 9/11. I was home for 9/11, being from New York. I didn't think there would ever be anything worse than that. The situation in Juarez, they had more murders there than in 2010. So we've all heard of 9/11. We've all heard of Iraq and Afghanistan. Where does Juarez fit into all this? Amazing how no one talks about it.
Describe a typical day of shooting in Juarez for making this film.
It's tough. I mean, the first instinct and the first game plan is you have to stay alive or there's no movie. And the only fear I had was when I was stopped at a light, because when you're stopped at a light, you're helpless. And cartels love to ambush cars. It's a sneak attack, and they'll fire 40, 50 rounds. And unless your car's bulletproof, there's a great chance you're going down. That was the only time I felt any trepidation. But going in there, I had a lot of assistance from El Diario, the newspaper. If it wasn't for them, I couldn't have made 8 Murders a Day or this new film, Murder Capital of the World. They facilitated everything. They set up my interviews, they translated things for me, helped me get around the city, showed me all the ins and outs. If it's not for El Diario, I couldn't have made either film.
Did it ever cross your mind that you would stand out in Juarez, being in Juarez, and this might actually be your last film because of all the violence happening?
You mean because I would be murdered? Well, you're right, I do stand out. I don't see too many Asian people there, but you know, Juarez, I want to say 90% of the people in Juarez are beautiful people. I mean, they're law-abiding, they're caring people, and they're going through a tough time right now. It's the other 10% that's just ruining it for everybody. So, you know, I hope that people don't think that, oh, the second I step into Juarez, I'm going to get blown away. That's not the case. I mean, yeah, there's roughly 6 murders a day right now. Actually, January averaged 4 murders a day. So it is going down. But when you take into account there's 1.2 million people in the city, what are the chances of you being that 4 a day or that 6 a day? It's very slim.
Murder Capital of the World. Tell me a little bit about this movie and how it compares to the previous movie.
Murder Capital of the World was a recap of Juarez in 2011. A lot changed. The murder rate's down 35%. We talk about the spillover into the United States and also into other parts of Mexico, the other 30 states. And we also talk about the 2012 presidential election. You could make the argument it's the most critical vote in Mexico history, considering what's going on right now. And we have an interesting twist this year, Carlos. We have a female running for president. She just won the PAN party a week ago, Josefina Mota. I don't believe she's going to win, but I am rooting for her. I think right now Mexico needs a shock to the system that's going to, anything that can change the direction of the city, even if it's the slightest bit, I'm all for, because that country right now needs hope. It's bleeding right now, and they need any jolt of hope.
When you were interviewing the people for this latest project, what did you want them to say, or what did you want to get from their interview so that you can educate those watching?
The truth. I mean, this is a subject people don't want to talk about. It's about time we got to the bottom of this. I mean, this film sticks up for the innocent Mexican people who have been brutally cheated during this shocking wave of violence. Again, a body count I just can't quite get a grip on. I mean, when you're talking about 8 murders a day 2 years ago, I don't know if people understand how many bodies that is. I mean, you're talking, so if you have 2 one day, you have to counter it with 14 another. So to keep that intensity of 8 per day is beyond comprehension. So I wanted people to come out and be honest, be truthful about what I feel is the greatest human rights disaster in the world today.
Now, many of us drive past it every day. From your eyes, tell us what's life like in Juarez for these people?
It's desperate. I mean, you're talking about a city where 60% live in poverty, so many slums, so many problems in Juarez. There's a lack of food, there's a lack of protection. The education system has to improve. The social programs are not working in Juarez. Right now we have a city that's bleeding. We have a free-for-all. We have politicians on the wrong side of the law. We have the police on the wrong side of the law. It's a free-for-all. The corruption runs too deep. We don't know who's who.
What do you think needs to change to make things better?
Gosh, everything, Carlos. It's a bad situation. I mean, we need just a complete cleansing of the city. We need to wipe out all the corruption. And I couldn't even tell you who's corrupt, because that's what's so nebulous about this, if you want to call it a war between two rival drug cartels. We don't know who's clean. We don't know who's dirty. Maybe someone's halfway in and halfway out. Can you trust the police? Can you trust the politicians? Can you trust neighbors? This is a free-for-all.
How long were you out there shooting, and did you have any difficulties getting your crew down there?
Well, we had a very small crew. I mean, I literally had people dropping out the day of, saying, you know, Charlie, I'm sorry. My wife told me not to go. I can't go. My life means too much to me, and I can't argue that. I mean, I'm not going to tell someone to go there if they don't want to go. So, like I said, LD Audio was a huge help. But you know, again, I made a very smart game plan, I thought. You know, you go into Juarez, you get in, you get out. You don't try to create attention to yourself if you don't have to. So, but again, I went in there, did what I had to do, and made 2 movies out of it.
Mm-hmm. How did you guys make yourselves unknown from people? I'm sure you'd be carrying long or heavy equipment.
Well, yeah, this is a low-budget film. This is an independent film from the heart. So you're not going to see Panavision cameras and grips and gaffers running around. This was literally me and a cameraman and the people from LD Audio. So we were pretty inconspicuous, and so a lot of it is in our interviews, and we were inside our cars a lot shooting. We would also go outside at night, but I think you have to go in there with the right frame of mind. If you go into Juarez shaking like a leaf, well then, who knows, maybe you'll get hit.
Mm-hmm. Were there certain areas that you tried to avoid at all, or was
no,
everything kind of free game?
I think if I did that, I'd be compromising the film. I mean, you need to show how bad it is, how desperate the situation is. But in this film, Murder Capital of the World, which is opening on Friday the 17th, I have a whole section on the good of Juarez, and that's something I did not show in 8 Murders a Day. In 8 Murders a Day, I wanted to really depict what's going on, to get it out there to as many people as possible and say, look, this is a human rights disaster. This is exactly what's happening. Juarez is getting attention right now because of all the murders. But in this film, I wanted to also kind of take a step back and show the good of Juarez, because I think I made a lot of my point in 8 Murders a Day. And I also talk about the murder rate in 2011, which is Murder Capital of the World, but I also wanted to get in a section where we show the good of Juarez.
I was born in a country that was similar to Juarez back in the 80s. Is it hard for people to find the beauty that's in Juarez, the positive things?
I think if you're from there, you know what's up with the city. I think from an outsider's point of view, because the situation is so underreported, I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm never going to go in there. If I go in there, I'll be murdered. And I've talked to so many people who tell me I haven't been there since the violence went crazy in 2008. They just won't cross anymore. And we're talking about people in El Paso. They literally, and some people have family there and they still won't go. And I'm not going to blame anyone for not going into Juarez. I mean, it's a dangerous city. So you have to be cautious, you have to be smart. And a lot of people don't go in there anymore, unfortunately.
How much of an impact do you think 8 Murders a Day had?
I just finished the 30-city tour of the movie, so I'd like to think it had a good impact. I've had Mexican people coming up to me in tears saying, thank you so much for making the movie. It's about time. Again, I'm giving a voice to the voiceless. These victims, a lot of them innocent, by the way, their desperate cries and pleas need to be heard. They've been ignored and overlooked. I go after the White House administration time and time again of how President Obama has shown no care for the innocent Mexican people. Our war on drugs has been a colossal failure. The Fast and Furious might be the greatest scandal since Watergate. I mean, everywhere you look, this is a disaster. I mean, we have an end result of 50,000 dead Mexicans since Felipe Calderon declared war on the drug cartels. Everywhere you look, it's just 1,000% bad.
Do you think that any government officials have seen your films, particularly these in Juarez?
I don't know. It's interesting. The movie sometimes plays in front of sold-out shows, and sometimes I wonder who that person may be in the back. He looks like someone maybe influential or important. I'm sure there has been some influential people that have seen the film. I can't say for sure that someone from the government has seen it, but it certainly has been out there pretty far and wide for a long time.
Do you have a fear of the wrong person seeing this film and trying to get a hold of you in a negative way?
No. I mean, that's a chance you have to take. I mean, I consider this a job. This is obviously a risky film, but I think I said earlier, the only time I ever had any fear was when I was stopped at a traffic light in Juarez, and you just feel like your car's about to get pumped with 40 bullets, and that light turns green, and you can't go fast enough. But so far, no.
What was the transition like for you? We talked earlier about you being a sportscaster, and now you're a filmmaker.
Well, I kept getting fired, Carlos. I've been fired more than Al Capone's gun. I speak my mind, and news directors don't like that. So I found my new niche. I mean, I had reached a fork in the road. I had reached a critical point in my life. I said, I better do something here. And thank God, documentary filmmaking it just came into my life. Working on the news for 10 years helped, interviewing people. And I've always had sort of that producer instinct of putting things together. And it's not easy. Half the time you're putting out fires. And as an independent filmmaker, I've taken on a lot of work. And like I said, half the time there's always some issue that you have to resolve, and because there's just so much pressure. And thankfully I've been able to work with some good people. And I sit here feeling very fortunate that I've been able to make 6 films in 2 years.
I'm sure you have a long list of ideas that you want to accomplish. Do you have any upcoming projects that you want to share with us that you may be thinking about?
Well, locally, I'm looking at the baby Brianna situation. The 10-year anniversary is this summer, but unfortunately, I haven't heard back from the people I need to hear back from. And sometimes that discourages you. You know, a lot of things have to line up when you're making a victim film. You have to have cooperation from law enforcement. The victims, they have to come forward and help you out and say, you know, I'm totally on board. Sometimes you want to interview murderers. That's always hard. The attorneys get involved. And then you have to worry about getting footage. So everything has to line up for a movie to get made. So the chances of that making that baby Brianna film, I would say right now, is slim.
All right. We'll be waiting. Again, your film, Murder Capital of the World, comes out?
On the 17th, February. So that's Friday.
It'll be playing at the Cineport 17th on the 17th. 10. And in El Paso at the Bassett Place Mall.
Yeah, Cineport 10 on the 17th. It plays for at least a week, around 5 show times a day, and also at Bassett Place. You got it right.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. And thanks for watching. Remember, you can see this entire interview online at krwg.org. I'm Carlos Correa. We'll see you next time.